See something you like or maybe didn't like on this episode? Let us know. We want to hear from you. Email comments at contextwithlorna.com or call our viewer feedback line at 1-800-215-4913.
Well, before the break, we asked our studio audience this question. Is personal debt merely a result of poor spending decisions? And realize personal debt is everything. It's your mortgage, it's sending the kids to school, all of that stuff. Well, here's how the audience voted on is personal debt poor spending decisions. 85% said yes. 4% weren't sure, and 11% said no. So there you are, a very thrifty studio audience here. Michael, aren't you proud of them?
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's reality, Lorna. If we think about it, in all 12 years that I've been doing this, I've never met one person deep in debt without that person having made poor choices, especially in Canada.
And that, but you know, it's mortgages build, they grow, and yet you're saying that can be totally managed if you're taking care of the rest of your...
Absolutely.
Regardless of low income.
If you start with an affordable down payment, you see, we have to look at lifestyle. Where do I live? Where do I live? And therefore, what's the down payment and what's the mortgage that I can afford holistically?
All right.
As opposed to saying it's 2% and it's cheaper than renting. We don't approach it properly.
All right, okay, we're going to talk now about lifestyle with our next guest who knows firsthand the crippling power that debt can have. Around 9 years ago, Nada Thompson faced a harsh reality. She'd racked up $60,000 worth of consumer debt. Nada, thanks for coming to tell us your story. How did this happen? $60,000 on the cards. Cha-ching.
Yep. You spend a few $100s more than you earn every month. And it just builds and builds. And then, of course, it's not just what you're spending, but it's what the credit card companies are taking from you. So you're spending a couple extra $100. They're adding a few extra $100 on that, and then it's like $1,000 every month.
You had a successful interior design company. You're a single woman. You're just taking care of yourself. What were you doing wrong?
I wasn't saying no when I should have. I see now that most of what I was doing was emotionally driven. A friend would say, you know, I really want to see you, let's go to such and such a place. And what I should have said is, can we meet in our home? Or can we meet for a coffee? But instead, you know.
And how did you start to realize, I can't manage this anymore?
It was 2004. I mean, prior to 2004, I thought that I would live and die with debt. I didn't have a problem with it. I just assumed that this is how people live, right? In 2004, I had this real burn on my heart that this isn't freedom, this isn't fun, and it doesn't have to be like this forever. And so between 2004 and 2009, I worked very, very hard on stripping down my budget. And
what motivated you to do that? Because you could have declared bankruptcy, as some people do.
No. I spent the money. I owe the money. I enjoyed myself. I went for meals. I went on trips. I did all these things. So
what gave you the strength then to start that kind of radical paying back?
I would have to give that to God. My spiritual journey started to change in 2002, and I started to take a really hard look at the way that I'd been living and why I was doing what I was doing, and started making big changes. And that really was about wanting to be pleasing to God. So
we had Michael challenge us last segment that it's all God's money. You felt God interrupted you financially. What does that sound like? What does that look like in your life?
It's freedom. That's all I can say. Is every day that goes by and I'm another dollar closer to not owing anybody anything. It's like Lotto 649, only better because I got there through hard work and saying no and being strong enough to say, I can't afford it, and do you still want to be my friend? And I can't help you out. Do you know that I love you? You know, it was very, very emotional. It's been very emotional.
$60,000 is a lot of money to slowly pay back.
It is.
You work now in a charity for the poor people, and very poor people. What have you learned about the value of money? You work at Sanctuary.
I work
downtown
at Sanctuary
Toronto,
in downtown Toronto.
Neediest area.
What my friends there taught me is that relationships can only really begin when money is taken out of them. So when I first started there and people would say, you know, Nada, can I have $5? Can I have 10? I need groceries, or I'm moving, or whatever. And I was just pouring out all this money and realizing I'm not getting any closer to anybody. So then as part of, you know, moving forward to getting out of debt, I decided to leave all my money at home, not bring cards, not bring bank cards. So I had absolutely nothing to give other than me and my time. And that's when the friendship started to develop.
And what has happened with yourself in your talking with God about this whole future on money then?
I came to the realization that I've been living in fear. Fear of not fitting in, fear of disappointing people, fear of letting people down. It was a fear-driven life. And now that I'm able to actually own that I have, or I had, huge debt, I'm almost out of it. Yeah, my friends know this about me, and we've just renegotiated our relationships.
And as you watch the whole world economy turmoiled, how do you feel about the way you're managing your options for the future?
I'm comfortable. I'm not spending more than I make, and I still get to give tons of it away, and it feels like tons of it, right? Like I didn't stop giving to charity, and the closer I get to being completely out of debt, the more excited I get. Like, wow, like I'm going to have so much more money to make a big difference in the world, right? Like, yes, I want to, you know, have certain things for myself, but I mean, you start to say no to everything and you realize how little you actually need to be content, and then all of a sudden there's all this money that you can put elsewhere.
Thank you very much. Well, we appreciate Nada. I honestly, I've never expected anyone to be quite so happy while they're paying off $60,000 to debt. All right, so our audience poll right now, we'd like to know what you think. Do you turn to God for direction on your finances? Yes, unsure, or no? Send us your answers via Facebook, Twitter, email, or by phone. Here in the studio, our audience is doing a live vote. We'll have those results after the break. And when we return, a few thoughts about the emotional triggers on spending. That's next.
Have a question for Lorna or a guest you've seen on the program? Drop us a line at questions@contextwithlorna.com.